Recently, one of our parishioners woke up one morning completely disoriented. He knew who he was. He was pretty sure he knew who his wife was, but the house was completely unfamiliar. And he had no memory of anything about his life. And he tried not to panic, and his wife tried not to panic, but of course this was a time for 911. And when they brought him to the hospital, they said, "You have transient global amnesia." A case of amnesia that lasts for 24 hours. You forget just about everything for 24 hours, and then you come out of it. It lifts like a fog. That's an incredible thing, isn't it? It's very unusual. But I will tell you that in my 10 plus years of priesthood, in the different parishes I've been in, it's the third time it's happened. It does happen. Now, I feel like I would be irresponsible to not give a little public service announcement here. If you have those symptoms, don't say, "Oh, I'm sure they'll be gone in 24 hours. It very well could be something else. Call 911. But how interesting that there's this phenomenon where a person can be struck, literally without warning, with transient global amnesia. It can happen any time in life, I'm told, but it tends to happen in midlife or beyond. One spiritual author says we should not be surprised by that, because amnesia is the best description of, for most of us, what is our biggest spiritual problem. We have amnesia, and it starts when we're born. As we said on Ash Wednesday, we're part of God's invisible kingdom. We're part of this invisible world that is bigger and more real than the world we live in. But as soon as we come here as babies, we forget all about that. And as we grow, we are completely removed from that invisible world, as if we have amnesia. We don't remember that world. We don't remember God. Sometimes we even go through a phase where we're trying to believe in God. We're trying to get over not believing in God. We forget that we're on a divine mission, that we were sent here on a divine journey. And so, because of that amnesia, we don't even understand what the goal of life is. We spend our teenage years fighting with our parents, trying to get independent, and then we try to go out and make money for ourselves, make a name for ourselves, hopefully make it big enough that the Joneses will be just a little bit jealous. Not jealous enough to take it out on us, but jealous enough to feel a little green when we drive by. We forget what life is all about. It's like having amnesia. Here we're part of this noble, invisible world. We're part of the fabric of something so big, but we forget. And then we live as if it's not even true. But every once in a while, we get a glimpse and we remember. We think, oh yeah. Sometimes it might happen on one of those occasions when we have a baptism at Mass. A lot of people will tell me, "Father, when I find out there's going to be a baptism at Mass, I burst into tears right away. I just can't believe how touching it is that we take this baby and say, 'You are from the invisible world, and we are so grateful that you have come here, that God sent you. And although you are ours, although you belong to your parents, in a bigger and realer way, you belong to God.'" Sometimes it's a moment like that. Sometimes it's a moment like a sunrise, like the beautiful one today if you were up early enough to see the color of the sky this morning. Or a rainbow, as we talked about last week. Or maybe it's as simple as every once in a while we look at our kids and we think, "I cannot believe how much I love this little stinker. If I could love someone this much, how much must God love? Why am I capable of this kind of love that I've never known before?" So that's what we're hearing about in the gospel, is one of those moments. That's what happened on that mountaintop with Jesus and his friends. As he's transfigured, Peter, James, and John realize, right, everyone thought we were crazy. Everyone's like, "You're leaving your fishing business behind? You're going to treat your father like that and walk away from the family business? What the heck's wrong with you? And for that moment, they were like, right, we remember now why we did this. We remember what we felt. You truly are what we thought you were. And this moment proves it. And Peter says the thing that I would have said if I were there. Maybe he's a stand-in for you too. He says, can we capture this and stay here forever? The thing I would have asked. And Jesus says, nope, no, you can't. But you can remember it. You can hold on to this as something that's always true. You can go back to this memory anytime you need to. You have to go back down the mountain and live in the valley, he says. But the mountain can go with you. That's the gift of your memories, is being able to take the mountain with you into the valley. This week, as we're reading Beautiful Eucharist together as a parish, many people are in the small groups that are taking this book apart one chapter at a time. And in this week's readings, we're getting a glimpse of understanding that the Eucharist is one of the best ways to cut through the fog of amnesia. It's what brings us up to the mountaintop so we can see the fullest panorama. It's like the medicine that helps restore our memory. Right. I remember now. I remember what life is all about. I remember that I'm here on a divine mission. I remember that I'm part of something much bigger than my little story. And that medicine is what tells us, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to get through this miscarriage. We are going to get through this. Or we're going to get over this time of loss, this career setback that is so scary. I am going to find my way through this divorce or through this loss of a spouse. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I know I will, because I just got reminded that I've got divine help, that I'm on a mission that is bigger than me, and that I didn't send myself here for this. I was sent here by a much bigger force. Memory is something that we need to use to our benefit. A lot of us rehearse the wrong memories. We think about that ex who did us wrong, that boss who should pay for that. We think about the wrong things. We can rehearse those things all day, and they don't help us. But we're being invited to say, focus on the memories that remind you when life made sense, when things cohered. Focus on what lets you know that this is an enchanted world, and that God's invisible kingdom is bigger and more real than the visible world that we live in. What is the memory that you turn to? Do you have one? Do you have a touchstone memory that you go to when you're just not sure if you can deal with this next challenge? What is the memory that you turn to as, I know that if all else fails, I can know that life is good because of that, because of this person. And if we get good at that, we get to build kind of a memory muscle. We build that muscle that allows us to retrieve those memories and use them to help us grow. We get to hear in that first reading the real power of remembering the big picture of the invisible world. Now, I warned you that was going to be a hard reading to hear. And I don't know if any of you were like, I don't know what was so hard about that, Father. That seemed fine. Well, that might be a sign that we're getting a little too accustomed to it, because that reading was really upsetting. Kill your son for me? Come on. But it's meant to be shocking. The only danger is that it is so shocking we could almost lose the thread. And a lot of us, when we hear a story like that, rather than engaging with it, we go, yeah, this is why I don't like the Old Testament. I like the part of the Bible with Jesus in it. These readings, that's not for me. We hear a lot of people say that. You've probably thought that before. But that's not what we're supposed to do with that reading. That reading is meant to get us thinking. The shock is meant to help us say, whoa, what is God telling us here? And the point of the story is that Abraham knew that God's promises are like an anchor that's been thrown way into the future. And we're holding the rope to that anchor. And we are being pulled slowly toward that anchor. Abraham is, and you are, and I am. We're slowly being pulled toward that promise of God. And Abraham has a gift that a lot of us don't. He remembers that, even in the hard times. He knows, I'm part of something much bigger. He's got a memory that allows him to know, God visited me and told me that my descendants would be as numerous as the stars of the sky, that I am chosen. I know that's true. I remember that. So his glimpses of that and his memories of that made him kind of bulletproof. He was kind of invincible. So sacrificing Isaac was never supposed to happen, but the thought of it is meant to be shocking for us. And it's meant to help us say, I could even survive, though it's the worst thing to think about. I could even survive the loss of a child. The proof of it is that there's people here who have. There's people here right now who have survived that. And they have their faith because somehow they've been able to integrate, not easily, but with time and with faith, that they're part of something much bigger than just the worst thing that ever happened. Abraham being confronted with, could you even lose your child, is meant to shock us into saying, if I would have to do it, I would have to do it. And I would not want my faith to flee because of it. So we're about to line up for the medicine. And some of the people that are going to be lining up are people who have been through things that you have said God forbid to. And we're going to line up and let that medicine help cut through the amnesia. And as we return to our pews, we will be on the mountaintop, maybe for just a few moments. 6 days a week, we live in the valley, enshrouded by the fog. But just imagine if we could take that mountaintop experience with us and hold on to it for the other 6 days.